tariffs. You said if that were to happen, that you would be responding with large-scale tariffs. Will you be following through with that promise?
Well, absolutely, but we had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens, but we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, because, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many decades. And
look at what Grok just figured out here.
We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. They actually, many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And I don't blame them as much as I blame the people that stood, in this case I can say the men, because so far they've been all men, haven't they? But the men that sat right there behind the Resolute desk, mostly the Resolute desk, you know. I don't know if you know, you have a choice of 7 desks. The Resolute is the one I like, but some chose other ones, but they sat right behind a desk right in this location, and they let our country be hurt very badly, but I didn't do that. So, but we had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, how are the talks with India on tariff going on? And what is expectations from
Grok, he fucked it up so bad.
Well, as you know, Prime Minister Modi was here just recently, and we've
always
been very good friends. India is one of the highest tariffing nations in the world. You know that. I know. Thank you for shaking your head, but it's brutal. It's brutal. They're very smart, and he's a very smart man and a great friend of mine, actually. And we had very good talks. I think it's going to work out very well between India and our country. Very, very well. And I want to say you have a great Prime Minister.
Mr. President, there's been a very serious earthquake in Burma, Myanmar today, with up to several hundred killed.
Yeah.
The military regime there has asked for help from anybody.
Yeah, we're going to be helping. We've already alerted the people. Yeah, it's terrible what's happened. It's helping. We've already spoken with the country. Okay, please.
Mr. President, yesterday you asked Representative Stefanik to stay in her seat. Can you explain your reason for that? Did it have anything to do with the tight polling in the Florida district that former Representative Waltz held?
Well, I think we're doing, I think we had, as you know, we have a few elections going on, and she is phenomenal, number one. She's a friend of mine, and she was going to go to the United Nations, and I said, look, there's a lot of room for doing that or something else, but she's very popular in her district, and I didn't want to take a chance. I don't even know who else is running. I assume somebody else would have been running, but if she runs, she can't be, you never want to say can't be beaten, but I think can't be beaten. She's very, very well-liked and very smart. And I said, Lise, would you do me a favor? We cannot take a chance. We have a slim margin. We don't want to take any chances. We don't want to experiment. And she polls like I do. I won her district, as you know, by a lot of points. And she also does very well there. When it comes to Florida, you have 2 races, and they seem to be good.
Sweet.
It's a Trump plus 32 area.
Now I have
one thing is they're spending like $12 million, and our candidate doesn't have that.
Oh my God, I might have to...
much less than that, like maybe 1/12, about $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million. So the airwaves are blanketed, and you never know what happens in a case like that. I won it by 32 points, and it's very, very strong. It used to be Democrat, but when I came along, they liked me for whatever reason. You'll have to explain that, but they liked me, and we're way up. But you don't know what happened. Second district, who seems to be in pretty good shape, but likewise, he's being outspent about 5-1. So we don't want to take any chances. So I went to Elise and I said, Elise, do you mind? Very highly rated person, you know, she was a real leader. And she will be again. I spoke with Mike Johnson. They're going to put her in a high leadership position. But will you mind staying in Congress? Because we don't want to take any chances. It's as simple as that. It's basic politics. It's politics 101. She's very popular. She's going to win. And somebody else will probably win.
Oh my God. I am using...
I did very well there, but the word probably is no good. So I really appreciate her doing it. she's doing me a big favor when she does it, because she was all set to go to the United Nations, and she would have dealt with Putin and Zelensky and everybody else, and she would have been very effective. But we really
Okay,
want to.
so
We don't want to take any chances because it is.
this is basically fixing. Yep, except.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. You and your team apprehended a top 3 leader in the violent gang, MS-13, yesterday, just 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. What has made you and your team so effective in finding, locating, apprehending, and deporting these violent, illegal
I
migrants?
love this guy.
You are really
People would ask questions like
making
that.
a fool out of Grok.
All you're doing is being fair
I fought
when you ask a question in that way.
with
Pam
Grok
Bondi and Cash
for
Patel and all of the rest of law
over
enforcement. I think
an
we have to
hour,
include ICE
and
Border
you have this
Patrol,
going
Paul,
already.
Border Patrol, the whole group from Border Patrol. They're so incredible.
On to the
dangerous
next
stuff,
error.
And it's
When-
really an unforced error, because these people were allowed into this
when
country. They should
I
have been in this
click
country. They would
web,
have never been in this country. We're getting rid
start
of some of the worst criminals in
webcam,
the world. They came out of jails and mental institutions
I
from all
get
over the world.
this.
But Pam and the whole group, and Cash, who's here, and it's so good to have him. I see him all over. He's working 24 hours a day, but the job they've done is incredible. And they caught one of the worst criminals in the world, I guess, in terms of evilness. You don't get any worse than the MS-13 guys and the Tren de Aragua guys. You can flip a coin. It's a rough group. And, you know, the big thing is they have to be able to do their job. I was watching it on television like you, and I saw the home that he lived in a good area, but boy, they had a lot of weaponry in there, right? Highly sophisticated, really brutal stuff. So I appreciate the question, and I just want to thank
Awesome.
Cash and Pam,
But
the whole group
now-
doing and the local law enforcement has been so terrific.
Now the
Even first responders. So
canvas
I want to thank everybody.
for the
Thank you very
web
much.
and resizes,
I want to say, first of all, happy Women's Month.
but
Thank you so much for women by
it
focusing
is
men out
black,
in sports, and you platform so many.
That was an easy one.
and
You platform so many great women, like your chief of staff, Susie Wiles,
Here
also have Caroline Levitt doing a great job as press
is the
secretary. Now
console.
Alina, who will be joining as well. Since Democrats seem to struggle answering this question, I wanted to ask you, what is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me, because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women. And that's got to be about a 94%. I read today it was a 94% issue. And I watched the other day, congressman, a Democrat congressman, fighting for the fact that men should be allowed to compete essentially in women's sports. And
just make
I say,
sure
hope
that
they keep that going, because they'll never win another election. That's a big deal. But women are basically incredible people, do so much for our country, and we love our women, and we're going to take care of our women. Yeah.
Mr. President, what was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people. That was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like
still
in
not seeing the video.
And I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York, where he had a rough road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but they say it was very and they say the thing that he did wrong,
Man.
he was one of the first people
Okay.
who supported it.
So
Donald Trump,
that just
the
kicked the
president.
living hell out of
He
Grok.
supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him.
All right,
It was in
what's
Utah,
going on here? First
and
of
they
all,
went
why is
after
that so
him, They went
bright?
after his family. They went after his businesses, and he was, I believe, exonerated. And then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan, and he had nothing to do with Manhattan, and they got him. And I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group. They're violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and
Okay, so this
thousands
is
of stories.
this is awesome.
And they went
Okay,
after this man, and when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person, and basically I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well. All top-of-the-line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There were many such cases, by the way. Many such cases.
Mr. President, Americans buy cars now, they want to
Please go ahead.
prices.
Thank you, Mr. President. Have you spoken with Vladimir Putin about buying weapons from Iran and from North Korea?
Not about specifically that, no, I haven't.
Well, that seems to be an issue that you want to make important. Is
Well, I'm making all issues important. You got a lot of important issues. You also have the children issue that's important, you know. So a lot of children are living in Russia right now. That's a horrible situation that would have never taken place if and the country is being decimated. But, you know, they're losing 2,500 on average young men, mostly men, almost in all cases men,
Right.
young men every single week, 2,500, and they're not from our country, they're from Ukraine and they're from Russia. But it's human
You
lives.
got
and
it.
If we can get it stopped, and I think we're making progress. But
I
there's a
don't
lot of,
know
ill will
where
between the
Grok
parties.
left us, but I was supposed to have
No, I don't think so. I think you're going to have a country
an
that's going to
overlay
I
on
spoke
my
to Tim Cook of Apple. He's
hands
investing $500 billion in the United States, which he would have never. He told me I would
right
never have
now.
done it if you lost the
Here
election, and I would
are
have never
the
done
logs.
it if there wasn't a tariff system that is a incentive for people to come and remember.
I see the issue. The hands overlays aren't showing up because we're
All you
missing a
have to do
media
is
pipe.
Do your work right here. If you have your company here, if you build your product, make your
Update
product,
the hand
make
overlay
your
draw
car,
function is
whatever it is
properly
you're
handled.
making,
Jesus
no
God.
tariffs. And we're going to have, I think, Scott, I would say we're close to $4 trillion, even going close to $5 trillion. Now, we haven't had that for years. If you add up years, they haven't invested like that. And here we are in 2
Okay.
months. We think we're up to close to $5
Only
trillion of
thing
investment. They're gonna
is
build
I
cars. They're
have
already
this
building some. Many
error
of them have already
again.
started. And if you build a car in the United States, and one thing that I just spoke with John Thune about, I just spoke to Mike Johnson about, Speaker.
Yes, we need to
do
update that.
something that has never been done in this country before. I'm very proud to say it was my idea. And so sometimes a simple idea, they say, how'd you think of that one? It's so simple, it was never done. If you buy a car in the United States that's made in the United States, and it's manufactured here, when you borrow money, if you borrow money, you have interest payments, we're going to let you deduct the interest payment for income tax.
You don't understand. Like this is.
I think that's going to more than pay for itself. I think
It's
people-
literally. It just rewrites it.
They've never had a deduction. You know, deductions are supposed to be for like rich people, and it's unfair to have that. But
I
rich
just
people
copy the
are,
error into here,
I think I know more
paste
about
it,
deductions than any human being on
and
earth.
as it
But,
updates
you
the
know,
files, it
truth
just
is
updates
that,
the page.
People that are middle-income people that buy a car and actually have to borrow money, they're going to now get an interest deduction on their car if it's made in the United States. If it's made someplace else,
Let me
won't
guess,
take
it works
place.
now.
But car companies, as you know, are already expanding
Yeah,
and building new
except our
plants. They've already
overlays
started,
aren't
and
showing.
I think you're going to see numbers. Howard, you're seeing it, and
Hey,
Scott,
I
you're
can
seeing
upload a
it.
picture.
You're going to see numbers the likes of which you've never seen.
Actually, you don't even have to do that. You can
Yeah,
just copy.
please go ahead.
The Vice President is in Greenland right now. Do you have plans to expand U.S. military presence in Greenland? Is that
We get along very well with Greenland. We get along very well with Denmark. We've always had a good relationship. Denmark does a lot of business in the United States. We don't do so much there, but they do a lot of business in the United States. And I think they want to see, I think everybody wants to see that work out. We need Greenland, very importantly, for international security. We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can. If you look at Greenland right now, if you look at the waterways, you have Chinese and Russian ships all over the place. And we're not going to be able to do that. We're not relying on
Progress.
Denmark or anybody else to take care of that
Except
situation. And we're not talking
I
about
still
peace
can't
for the United
see
States. We're talking
hand
about world peace. We're
overlays.
talking about international security. And right now, you look at it, you have warships all over the place going through right along Greenland. We're not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen. Or if it's going to happen, we have to be protective of our country. And more important, really protection not only of our country, of the world. So Greenland is very important. In modern day weaponry makes Greenland 100 years ago.
Looking at the console output in the code, I see what we need to add a media pipe drawing into the script.
If you notice, also some of those, you could call them roadways, okay? They're
Now let me
roadways,
also
but
update the
some of those
calibration.js
areas
file,
are
including
opening
proper
up.
handling of the
They're
hand
opening up.
overlays. Oh my
Icebreakers
god.
out there, they're opening them, and by just nature, they're opening up, and they're headed right into China, right into Russia, and we have no choice. The answer is he's there with
Try
his
refreshing.
wonderful wife, Usha. They're right now. They landed a couple of hours ago, and they will represent us well. But Greenland's very important for the peace of the world, not us, the peace of the entire world. And I think Denmark understands it. I think the
Okay,
European Union
don't
understands it.
see
And if they don't,
overlays
we're going to have to explain it to them.
Would you like to
yet. But Grok went down a lane path.
Ukrainians every day?
The webcam used
See what
to
happens.
start
We're
automatically.
looking at a report. You're right. They make a lot of drones. Iran makes a
It
lot of drones.
decided
Very effective
to
drones, too.
add
Very
a
effectively at some things, but
start
Iran is very high on
camera
my,
button.
On my list of things to watch.
Instead.
As you probably know, I
Let's
sent them a letter just recently,
remove
and I said
that
you're gonna have to make a decision
button
one way or the
and
other.
put
We're gonna
it
either
back
have to
so
talk
the
and talk it out, or
camera
bad things
just
are gonna happen to Iran,
starts
and I don't want that to happen.
and the page loads.
Big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness. My big preference
Obviously,
is we work it out with
the user
Iran.
will
But if we
have
don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran. Okay,
permission.
thank you very much, everybody.
But-
Thank you.
We know that.
You've just come from Panama, and you said that your meetings in Panama went
What
well.
else
After that,
could
President Trump
be
said they were
wrong
going to
with
take the canal back,
the hand
or something very
overlay?
powerful is going to happen. What's going to happen?
Well, I hope nothing's going to happen, and it shouldn't, because look, the president's point is we gave the canal in a treaty to Panama. We didn't give it to China. You come back 20 years later and you go to the canal, and on the entry points of both sides of the canal is a
Now let's
Chinese
update the main.
company. In fact, when I was visiting there yesterday,
I love
just
this.
behind
This
me,
is
just
freaking
over my
great.
shoulder was a Hong Kong shipping vessel, and so their presence, not just in the canal but in Panama writ large, is very disturbing.
So ridding their presence could solve this whole problem?
Well, we didn't give the canal to China. I mean, it's a violation of the treaty.
There are a
What I
few
told
potential
President
issues.
William
Looking at the
yesterday
code, we're
was
using windows.draw
that
connectors
President
and
Trump
window.draw
made a
line
preliminary
words.
determination that that there's a violation of the treaty. You're in violation of the treaty because a sovereign other country, a third country, has effective control over the
Added
canal.
debug logging.
And absent serious measures, we're going to have to preserve our rights under the treaty. Now, obviously,
Also
a lot of
added
options in that
script
regard, and I think
to
people
load.
speculate things, but I don't think we'll ever get to that point, and shouldn't get to that point. So we had a very frank conversation. Since then, they've taken some steps. They announced that they're going to get out of the Baltimore Road.
Try refreshing the page,
We'd like to
WebCam,
see more.
and you
We
should
hope
see
to
hand
more
overlays. The
things
debug
to come.
logs will help
The
us
government
to
doesn't
understand
control
if there are
the
any.
canals. It's run by an independent agency, the Canal Zone.
You know what?
So they have some legal steps that they have to carry out. But my hope ultimately is that we can get back to a point where that canal is what it was meant to be, which is a
Okay, I'm just going to accept, review next, accept, review next,
It's free for
accept.
it's open for everyone, and that no foreign power through their
Index.
companies or any other means has the ability to use it against us in a time of conflict and impede travel through it, because
So
it
this
would be
could
devastating.
easily get resolved without the United States.
Why is it
taking
so
direct
fucking lame?
operational control of the canal.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, and I'm not going to preclude any options about what the final outcome looks like, but at a prerequisite baseline, we cannot continue to have the Chinese, and through their companies, exercising effective control of the canal area. And that needs to happen. I was pretty clear, and I hope that we'll see additional steps in the days to come to reaffirm that.
Mm-hmm. So you're now the head of USAID. The head of Doge, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do
you agree with that?
I noticed a few things. Webcam is started and the video is playing successfully. The WebGL errors about text messages are not critical.
It was created as a way of
We're not seeing any logs from the hand detection or drawing functions. Let's see if we're getting hand detection results. Let me add some debugging logging.
Secretary of State, the National Security
Also,
Council, the
let's
White
check
House,
the
and all
media.
levels of government. They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs.
I'm not giving it like a lot of info here.
Whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States. And that's not what the statute says, and that's not sustainable. The President put a pause on all foreign aid. We found a lot of cooperation in the State Department. And we have issued dozens and dozens of waivers as we go through all the foreign aid programs in the Department of State.
Now let's ensure we're also
The ones that
properly
make
drawing the
sense,
hand
we issue a
landmarks.
waiver, they go back on. We've already done it for dozens of programs.
And you'll be issuing more waivers?
And we'll be doing so. For example, we did it today for some of the counter the migrant flights that are going out of Panama. It's in our national interest to help them deport people that are headed towards the United States back to their home countries. And we'll
Please
issue
refresh the
some here
page
today in
and
El
check the
Salvador,
console
as we
logs,
do
detail
with
logs
our
about
cooperation with us on stopping drugs and stopping migration and so forth. So we're going through it at the State Department portion of foreign aid. We find cooperation. State Department people have been great, and we're issuing waivers and we're getting input, and it's working. We go to USAID, which is a big chunk of foreign aid, $40 billion or so. They're completely uncooperative. They won't tell you what the programs are. They refuse to answer questions. They try to push through payments. Even after the executive order, they were still trying to push money through the system.
Can it be reformed, or does it need to die?
Well, that was always the goal, was to reform it. But now we have rank insubordination. Now we have basically an active effort where their basic attitude is, we don't work for anyone. We work for ourselves. No agency of government can tell us what to do. So the president made me the acting administrator. I've delegated that power to someone who's there full time, and we're going to go through the same process at USAID as we're going through now at the State Department. I think there are some, this is not about getting rid of foreign aid. There are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do that makes sense.
I notice you're getting WebGL errors related to text shuffle, but more importantly, I don't see any logs from our hand detection results.
That's the process we're working through. There are things
You
that are
suggest the hand
happening
detection
that we
might not
should
be working
involved
correctly.
in funding, or that we have a lot
First,
of
let's
questions about.
update
But they're completely uncooperative.
to ensure we're processing
so we had no
frames.
choice but to take dramatic steps to bring this thing under control.
So it could exist in the future, USAID.
Well, the aid, I think it's important to separate USAID from aid programs,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because everybody's acting
Oh.
like somehow these aid programs are impossible without an
It's very
agency.
process-oriented. I mean, do you think that we'll still be the most generous nation on earth at the end of this process?
I think we'll be the most generous nation on earth, but we think we're going to be the most generous nation on earth in a way that makes sense, that's in our national interest. We are going to fund programs that make America stronger or safer or more prosperous. We're going to pay for things that make sense for the United States. The United States government is not a charity. It is not a global charity. There are a lot of global charities, and they should go to if you want to be involved in global charities, go join a global charity, raise private money, and spend it on whatever you want. But this is taxpayer money. It's not my money. It's not their money. It's our money. It's taxpayer money.
Oh, where the
And we
fuck?
have an
What was the
obligation,
favicon?
We're going to do foreign aid to do it in a way that makes sense, that doesn't support our enemies, and that actually is aligned with, makes sense within the context of our foreign policy. And the people at USAID, at the top levels especially, have been completely uncooperative. They don't view themselves that way. They're insubordinate. They refuse to provide access. They refuse to provide information. Not now. They don't provide access to Congress. Go to members of the Senate who have tried to get answers from USAID, and they tell them, we're not going to tell you anything. We don't work for you. We don't work for state. We don't work for the president. We don't even work for America. We work for ourselves. That's not going to continue.
Do you get the sense that during this pause, or are you concerned during this aid pause, that China could come in and fill the vacuum with their influence operations?
No. I mean, first of all, they don't do that now. If they did, they'd be out there competing with us in these places. But my point is this. Even if they did that, why would we fund things that are against our national interest or don't further our national interest, whether China's there or not? If China wants to waste their money on something that's against their national interest, go ahead and do it. We're not going to do it. It makes no sense for us to be involved in things that undermine what is important to America or that don't further what is important to America. And irrespective of what China decides to do, this is taxpayer money. We shouldn't be spending it on programs that have nothing to do with the United States and nothing to do with making America stronger, safer, and more prosperous. We have a foreign policy, and everything we do, including spending money, has to be aligned with that, has to further our national interests.
Moving on to some of the tariffs now. You're heading up negotiations with Mexico. The president just announced that now. Do these tariffs, especially those against Canada, fundamentally change the relationship that the United States
Frames
has
are being
with
set
our
to you, Pipe.
neighbors?
Well, it changes our economic relationship. The president's point is that trade with Canada is very unfair. You know, that he'll tell you, and he said it repeatedly, U.S. banks can't operate there. There's all kinds of industries that they protect against and do not allow to enter the country. So he views the balance as it's unfair and needs to be reset. He also argues they have been less than cooperative on fentanyl and on the inflow of fentanyl. The Canadians will tell you that more fentanyl goes that way than the other way, but increasingly in October of last year, they found a big fentanyl lab inside of Canada, and he doesn't feel like we're getting enough cooperation, and so that's why he's imposed those tariffs. In the case of Mexico, the president's point is much of the northern region of Mexico, sadly, and in direct threat to the Mexican government, is controlled by cartels. And so they've announced they're going to deploy 10,000 National Guard troops, Mexican National Guard troops, to their border, their northern border, and the president's decided to delay tariffs.
This is a good way of doing business, a new world order.
Well, I think the president's point is America's been taken advantage of for far too long. And I think that's true across the board. That's been true on foreign aid. We have countries and places that we pour a bunch of money into, and then they vote against us at the UN every time. They support all of our enemies. And you start asking yourself, why do we keep putting money into this? Our embassies say it. And the USAID says, we don't care, we're going to keep doing it anyways. In other cases, when it comes to trade, there are countries around the world where their companies can do whatever they want in America. They can do anything they want in America, but we can't do it over there. So there's this process called reciprocity, equal. Whatever you charge us, we get to charge you. Whatever you allow us to do, you're allowed to do. Whatever you block, we're going to block. I think the president's a big believer in reciprocity, in evenness, in fairness. For some reason, I don't know how this happened, but over the last 20 or 30 years, we felt like it's okay for countries to take advantage of us, and that's just not going to continue under President Trump.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
As part of all of this, the president again said that Canada should be our cherished 51st state. Is he serious, and are you working on that at the State Department?
Well, we're not involved in a negotiation to make them a state. And obviously, I think what we're focused on right now is what's most immediate in front of us, and that is that there's tariffs. That's obviously going to have an impact on our relations with them. We're still neighbors. We'll always be neighbors. Canada will always be our neighbor. Mexico will always be our neighbor. We can't move. You can't move to another neighborhood, right? So we're going to have to live alongside each other, and I hope we can find agreements. Again, we're the Department of State. We're the diplomats. So we're looking for ways to find things that are amicable. But I do think that neither Canada nor Mexico should make the mistake of thinking that this is bluster or that the president is just talking for purposes of negotiating leverage. He is serious that the U.S. is not going to be taken advantage of. And it's not just limited to Canada or Mexico. He's talked about some of the unfairness in the EU. He's imposed additional tariffs. We already had tariffs on China. These are additional tariffs.
And can China expect more, do you think, on top of what he's already proposed?
Well, if they continue to cheat and steal, yeah, absolutely. Look, China's acting in their national interest. I don't like it, but I don't blame what the Chinese leaders are doing. They're doing what any leader of a country would do. If you let them take advantage of you, they will. So I think he wants to bring fairness back to that relationship. And obviously China's going to be upset that we try to bring fairness because they've had a really good deal, an unfair deal for a long time. The president is going to make that equal. And look, that's going to create outrage in Washington and in editorial boardrooms. But millions of people, whether they're watching this broadcast or just living in real world America, say, of course, this all makes sense. All of it makes sense to them.
Bringing it back to our region right now, Venezuela is taking back migrants that the Trump administration is deporting. They've released American prisoners. Maduro doesn't seem like the type of person to be doing things just out of the goodness of his heart to help the United States. Is this administration going to recognize Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela?
There's no talks about doing that. No one's discussed it. We don't recognize him now. What he's agreed to is very simple. He's released Americans that should never have been in his prisons. They were
This
hostages.
is just insane.
They were hostages. He takes them for trade. And he's going to accept, especially these trained at agua criminals. We'll see if he actually does it. I hope they do. We got to get these people out of our country. They came from Venezuela, came through a bunch of other countries, wound up here, committing crimes in the United States. He pushed those people out of his country. He emptied out his jails and prisons and pushed them into other countries and towards the United States, and he's going to have to take them back. I think leaders like Maduro, no matter how tough they try to be, they respect Donald Trump. They know this is not a guy who's going to send you a strongly worded letter. He won't take action. I'm not going to talk about what those actions are, but he knows and they know we have many options to inflict serious damage and harm on the Maduro regime if they don't do what international law requires them to do. That is accept their foreign nationals who are illegally in this country, especially those who are criminals. That's the priority, the criminals.
And that's a lot of part of your conversations down here in Central America as well, getting people to take, governments to take their nationals back. But will they also take back people from other countries that we can't deport directly to?
Well, I think we'll leave here today with two things. First of all, President Bukele here in El Salvador has always taken back their nationals. It's been a very strong partner of the United States. The Biden administration treated him very poorly. Probably the most popular leader in Central America, maybe all of Latin America in terms of public approval ratings. And because he made this country safe. He really did. And very popular. So he's always been willing to take back his nationals. He's taking them back. He'll continue to do so. And I think he'll agree to take back these MS-13 killers. He's built his prison system here to house them. And I think he's willing to take back these trained Agua criminals that are not El Salvadorians. But he's willing to house them in these prisons that he's built as well. Because he's an ally of the United States.
And we'll see that in other countries as well, do you think?
Well, every country has a different level of capacity. But he has become sort of an expert in the region at dealing with crime and gangs in the street. Look, El Salvador is a country where 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you couldn't go out at night. You couldn't be out after half dark. There were people here, I used to, when I last here 2 years ago, you would talk to vendors, street vendors. They would tell you that every week, some kid would come by on a bicycle and collect protection money from the gangs. If you didn't pay on the protection money, they'd cut off your daughter's ear, they'd cut off your son's hand, they'd kidnap them. That's gone. All that extortion is gone. Basically,
I am not sure
put them in these prisons, and they're gone.
at all.
This is now a safe country. He's a leader in that. You see what it's done in El Salvador. I hope other leaders will follow his example. But he now has the capacity to help house some of these people because he's a partner and an ally of Donald Trump. Joe Biden treated him very poorly.
Very quickly on Iran, do you expect that the pressure campaign, the maximum pressure campaign, is coming back against Iran?
I think Iran right now is in very serious trouble because the people of Iran hate them. The people of Iran hate their own leaders. They hate them. They've destroyed their country. They've given all this money to Hezbollah. They've given all this money to terrorist groups, and they've done nothing for their own people. So they've got a lot of problems internally. I think they've lost. Hezbollah's been weakened. Hamas has been weakened. They've lost Syria. They got kicked out of Syria. So they're very, very vulnerable.
So time to apply more pressure?
I think we need to apply more pressure to Iran until they stop doing the activities that they're doing. What are those activities? They're trying to ultimately get to a nuclear weapon. They keep providing weaponry for all these terrorist groups, the Houthis, okay? This group in Yemen that basically attacked global shipping and raised prices for everybody. All of their weapons were given to them by Iran. All of their weapons were given to them by Iran. So until the Iranian regime stops promoting international terrorism the way they have through Hezbollah, Hamas, the groups they have had in Syria, the groups they have in Iraq, I think they need to face more pressure, not just from us, but from other countries in the world that are implicated or feel the wrath and feel the punishment of what they've done.
Cracking down on oil sanctions, tightening those up, even more sanctions you think are needed?
Absolutely, and we'll see. I mean, the president hasn't made a pronouncement on that yet. He's making a decision on what exactly that is. The bottom line is the president's goal is to get Iran to stop supporting terrorism and stop destabilizing the region and stop trying to be the dominant force in the Middle East. That has to end. They're a direct threat to Israel, but they're really a direct threat to the United States. That threat needs to go away. The president is going to reestablish deterrence. He has many options at his disposal to do that, and those will be forthcoming soon.
And arguably the most complex relationship you're going to have to manage is that with China. Are you planning on going to Beijing anytime soon?
We have no plans to go at this time, but you're right. I mean, look, the future of the 21st century will
Fucking
be about
Grok
the
just
relationship
broke it.
between the United States
Well,
and
Grok
China.
made it awesome,
China's
and
gonna
then
be a rich
fucking
and powerful
Grok
country. They
broke
already
it.
are.
They're-
We're not going to keep them from being a rich and powerful country. What we cannot allow is to live in a world where China dominates an entire continent and nobody there can have deals with us. What we cannot have is to live in a world where we depend on China for things we need to be strong. We can't depend on them for industry. We can't depend on them for critical minerals. We can't depend on them for energy. We can't depend on them for medicine. We can't allow them to take over the car industry, the telecommunication industry. That can't happen. We can't reach a point in the world where the United States depends on China. We can never allow that to happen. It's not about containing them. It's about reestablishing real balance. They're a great power. They're going to be a great power. It's a big country. It's historically been a great power. but there needs to be fairness and equality and that balance in that relationship, and it cannot lead to an America that's dependent on China for everything that makes us safe and strong and prosperous.
The final question, and I think it's a very good place to answer. Do you see yourself as the representative of the United States government ever going to Havana?
Well, first of all, I have no intention of going to Havana with this regime in place other than to discuss when they're going to leave. That regime is a disaster. It's destroyed the country. It's turning Cuba into a nursing home. Sadly, the only people that don't leave are the ones that are too old or too sick to leave. They've lost 10-12% of their population just in the last 3 years. They're incompetent and they're evil, that regime. And they're also a threat to the United States. They've invited China to open spy bases. They invite Russia in.
Is it possible that there is a second screen underneath
That isn't a government.
this one? The one that was showing?
There's nothing for me to talk about with them.
Mr. Secretary, thank you.
This one now doesn't show at all as per image. But the detection seems to change when I put my hand up from the logs.
Met the staff of our U.S. Embassy, who, like many of the individuals working in embassies and consulates worldwide, are the face of our country. As I said when I entered the State Department for the first time, it is an honor and a privilege to oversee such a talented diplomatic corps. And then don't forget, coming up around 12:30 this afternoon Eastern Time, Secretary...
The hand overlays are being created but not added to the scene.
So we want to focus our efforts
What?
right now on this New York Times story with some strong denials by the Pentagon themselves here. I want to put this up, their rapid response account, with a screen grab of the article on the New York Times' website saying the New York Times is a propaganda machine.
So we had multiple places trying to handle the hand drawing. Fuck.
Fake news articles saying Elon Musk and Doge are doing great work to help the Department of Defense. President Trump also saying this today, that Elon Musk will be briefed by the Pentagon about the USA's top secret plans against China should there be a war, according to the failing New York Times, one of the worst and most purposely inaccurate newspapers anywhere in the world. Their all-caps fake concept for this story is that because Elon does some business in China, that he's very conflicted and would immediately go to top Chinese officials and, quote, spill the beans. He says, all caps, ratings challenged fake news CNN immediately picked up on this absolutely ridiculous and false story, which is probably libelous, and went heavy with it. Fortunately, nobody was watching Maggot Hagerman, the really dumb quote-unquote scammer, who constantly writes about me for the Times using anonymous, made-up, parenthetical, non-existent sources, who I haven't spoken to in ages, is a big part of the scam. She led the Russia hoax, only to realize she was duped and got involved. She owes me a totally discredited Pulitzer Prize for her bad reporting. The fake news is all caps, the enemy of the people, and Elon is all caps, not being briefed on anything China by the Department of War here. In the meantime, we do want to bring into the conversation right now our friend and colleague there, National Security Analyst and expert and retired Marine Intelligence Officer, Hal Pepper, to talk about this story. Hal, good to see you here. I know there's a lot to get to on this Friday, and we made it to Friday, but I want to put this video up here so we can kind of talk over it and watch it. The Pentagon put this out of Musk's visit there to the DoD today. Now, Hal, this was a 5-reporter byline story in the New York Times. I'm going to keep reading from the New York Times, and they go as follows, that another official said the briefing would be China-focused without providing additional details. A 4th official confirmed Musk was to be at the Pentagon on Friday. Of course, he was. We're seeing the video put out by the Pentagon today. You see there Secretary Hegseth chatting there with Musk. Now, the New York Times says this. It was not clear if the briefing for Musk would go ahead as originally planned, but providing Musk access to some of the nation's most closely guarded military secrets would be a dramatic expansion of his already extensive role as an advisor to Trump and a leader of the efforts there at Doge. So, Hal, I got to ask you this. I guess it may come as a surprise to people that the U.S. military has drafted plans in the event of a head-on war between the U.S. and China? What goes on there?
I can't get into all specifics, but I can tell you this. The Pentagon has drafted plans for a lot of things, all right? There's plans for a number of contingencies around the world, number of possible, if you want to call them wars, military actions, stuff like that. So that there would be a plan out there, and I'm not saying there is, but there would be a plan out there. I would be very surprised if there was not a robust plan out there. And I can tell you that depending on how you define the term plan, there were a series of war games that were very well publicized last year or 2 years ago, where it was very clear what the U.S. would confront if it dealt with a war in the South China Sea, defending Taiwan, things. So if you want to call that, the results of that, a plan, that would certainly be fair. And it's very possible that maybe he was going to get some sort of brief that would explain, you know, what the implications would be and perhaps why there had to be so much resources dedicated. This is actually kind of tied to Doge because there's a lot of talk right now, but there's been some discussion by some of the members, or I should say those around Trump, who've talked about significant cuts within DOD. I just saw some stuff today where they were talking about eventually it could cut the defense budget by almost half. Well, that gets right into what would happen if there was a war with China. And that may have been part of what they intended to discuss. Obviously, after the New York Times discussion, it didn't come out. I would point out a couple things on. I'm not saying that the administration is trying to cover up something or whatever it is. It could have been there was a more expansive briefing in there, and somebody inside the Pentagon was very uncomfortable because they saw, Elon Musk and particularly Tesla has huge economic interests in China, huge production lines, and so someone may have said something, and one term that came out, they said this is false, it's not true, but they called those who released the information the term leakers.
Yeah.
Leakers kind of implies that they were leaking something, and I find that the juxtaposition of this is completely false, made up, and then that there's leakers that have to be prosecuted. I just look at those two things, I'm like, there's something inconsistent here, I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Hal, that's what we in the business would call non-denial denial. In the meantime, Hal, I want to focus on another major announcement today there in the Oval Office by President Trump with Secretary of Defense Hegseth standing right by his side here. I want to put up on the screen for our viewers. This is all we got from the White House, all we got from Boeing. President Trump announcing Boeing will build the next generation fighter jet, the F-47 for the U.S. Air Force. Defense Secretary Hegseth joining Trump in the Oval for that very announcement. We do have that announcement. We want to just play that for you. This is brief here. Let's listen.
Well, Mr. President, this is a big day. This is a big day for our war fighters. It's a big day for our country, a big day in the world. The name of this program is the Next Generation of Air Dominance. And Mr. President, because of your leadership, your clarity, America is going to have a generations in the future of air dominance because of this sixth generation fighter. We've had the F-15, we had the F-16, the F-18, the F-22, the F-35. Now we have the F-47, which sends a very direct, clear message to our allies that we're not going anywhere, and to our enemies that we will be able to project power around the globe unimpeded for generations to come. Mr. President, this is a gift to my kids and your kids, to my grandkids and your grandkids. This is a historic investment in the American military, in the American
I think we're almost there.
in American industry that will help revive the warrior ethos inside our military, which we're doing. Rebuild the military, which the previous administration did not do, by the way, Mr. President. They paused this program, and we're prepared to potentially scrap it. We know this is cheaper, longer range, and more stealthy. President Trump said we're reviving it, and
This is sick.
And then we are also going to reestablish deterrence.
All right.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it.
Let's make sure we have all the necessary UI elements.
Courage to do it, and leading the way for
Hey.
all those fighters.
Thank you very much, Pete.
All right, back on now to this tweet there from General David Alden. He is the chief of staff at the Air Force. He says, POTUS, SecDef, and I just announced the
Let me try to create the file, since it doesn't exist.
Fighter jet, the F-47. It will be the most advanced, lethal,
Okay,
and
so I got
adaptable
that
fighter
one. Oh my god.
designed to outpace, outmaneuver, and outmatch any adversary that dares to challenge our airmen. So, bringing back...
It's just redoing it all the fucking
Now, you
way.
heard there, Secretary of Defense Hegseth essentially say this, that the Biden administration was, quote, prepared to potentially scrap this program
Wow.
that we built as part of the next generation air defense.
This is just...
And it was paused under the Biden administration. Well, why was it paused? Why were they potentially going to scrap it altogether?
Well, Andrew, it's there's a lot to this. All right, this program's been around for a very long time. 2014, they announced the next generation.
You go, girl. This thing is fucking amazing. I'm sorry, Grok, but you let me down today.
The F-22 and the F-35. The F-22, air superiority, stealth, a lot of other things.
So it's adding helper function.
There's a lot of discussion out there that really never turned out to be what they'd hoped it would be. There was a lot of disappointment when it finally came out. In fact, even had a problem with its internal air
Maybe a
system,
texture update
oxygen
function.
system for the pilots, where some of them were actually falling unconscious during flight. So serious problems with the F-22. So it never really panned out, but it was very expensive. Then the F-35, which again was a very expensive
I know.
system,
I like the
came out.
American politics. It
Again,
is
there has been a lot of
entertaining
discussion,
anyway.
although a number of F-35s. We have a lot of F-35s in inventory.
And from Canada,
but
I don't know why the
still
tariffs.
ain't
I don't know why
been
anybody
oversold.
tariffs
This one
anybody.
is coming
I
from
swear
Boeing.
it's we're all just
The
shooting ourselves in the
F-35,
foot.
most
So
recent one, is
I like
the
you
one
guys,
in the
US.
news with strikes and stuff. That is a Lockheed manufacturer.
except you really got to stop
The
whoever's
Biden
doing it.
administration to put this on pause because
The-
we are at a kind of a strange
The maniacs doing all the spray
we
painting
we
and
weren't sure,
shooting and
as I say,
firebombing
we,
the Tesla
defense
stuff.
world, if you
That's
will,
pointless.
wasn't sure if
I'm pretty sure the smart people
if
know that. But
going
anyway,
with another
I don't
manned
want to get...
fighter
Okay.
was the way to go. You know, the
Pose
improvement with
landmark
AI and
visualization.
everything else, and certainly with drone technology, and the ability of that was.
Okay, I've now
the
implemented all the
limitations
core
when you put a person
functionality.
In the cockpit, a human body can only take so much, so there's a certain limitation on the number of G's you can do in a turn because the human body will just simply knock them unconscious. That's not a problem with a completely automated system. Of course, the problem with a completely automated system is if they find some way to jam the signal or to somehow do some sort
So I'm
of
just gonna accept
electronic
everything.
warfare with it, they could potentially knock out our advantage where a human would be able to overcome something like that, hopefully. So that was the issue. It was paused, so that is absolutely correct. And yes, it was turned back on. And
Okay.
of course, it was named the F-47,
I
which
had
I think is a little bit
briefly
of a tribute to
had
turn it back on.
my video
Yes, and, officials acknowledged that that was an ode to the 47th president of the United States.
going,
Of course,
and the
President Trump there.
hand overlays
Trump saying
were
this,
also
that nothing in the
working.
world comes even close to it. It'll be called the F-47.
Awesome.
The generals picked that title, he said.
The hand
but Hal, I gotta ask, what line of
overlays
thinking is
were
taking predominance in the defense industry, in kind of the military so far?
vertically,
is it that we will
though,
eventually
for
have
some
space
reason.
fighters that are unmanned, or a little bit of both? Is there
Now
an
I
opinion that wants
get
still
some
purely
console errors.
manned aircraft for these? Because I want to ask, I want to get your opinion. Is this a necessary program? Do we need the F-47?
You know, that's been a discussion going on literally for decades. Look, if we call it the silk scarf syndrome, you know, where you got to have that really cool silk scarf and you're a fighter pilot and all that stuff. And in the Air Force, this is more dominant than anywhere else. The discussion has been, should we go with some sort of drone dominated system, or should we go with still keeping manned systems? This is actually a little bit of a compromise. There isn't a lot known. There's a reason why it's kind of hidden and missed, and you don't see much, and it kind of looks like the opening scenes of Maverick or something. The reason is as a highly classified system, they don't want to give too much away. They don't want to put anything out there that the Chinese or Russians or anybody else can kind of backwards engineer what's happening here. It it is supposed to be, from what I understand, able to fly without a pilot. So it is set up to be pilotless somewhere down the road. It also has what's called the Loyal Wingman program, which is it will be kind of a base that will have not just one loyal wingman or not just one drone wingman, highly capable air defense drone, could be air attack drone from the sky to hit ground targets, could be a lot of things. It could be potentially controlling a whole fleet of these things flying around. So it'd be like a mothership, except they don't actually attach to it or anything, but they would be flying in sequence with it. And the next generation, the F-47, would actually be controlling this. And frankly, if you were controlling a number of drones around you, that implicitly means you're going to have an autonomous or an automated way of doing it, which means AI.
Okay.
There's no way one person could do that. It would overwhelm them. So it's going to be a very AI-centric sort of platform in terms of how it's employed, regardless of whether there's a pilot actually sitting in the flying the F-47 itself.
Yeah, I just want to ask lastly though, any other countries, allies and foes alike, developing something similar or no? Is this
yes.
Is this as advanced as you get?
Yeah, no, it is. It is far more advanced, and I will say this: our stuff is more advanced. China's got something which they've kind of got as a sort of their next generation thing that's kind of a counterpart to it. I will say, generally speaking, and this is becoming less true over the years, China tends to advertise a lot of their aviation and maritime assets and stuff, and even some of the ground stuff. And it sounds like it's very comparable to what we're doing, but usually our stuff is much more advanced. When you actually get into the technology itself, our stuff's actually much further along. With that said, China has been closing the gap over the years. So yes, they do have a counterpart to this. I'm not aware, Europe may be doing something. I haven't seen them do something quite on this level yet, but I would not be surprised to see something coming out of that European consortium.
Almost there.
Something that would compete with this as well. I don't see Russia putting out, they have the Su-57, but that's really bare. They can't even compete with the F-35. And but although they sell it as competing with the F-35, but so I just yes, there's stuff out there, but I will say this is the danger, is we go down this route and it may be something where there's a leap in technology, and I think AI may be that leap in technology. And this is one of the reasons the Biden administration was kind of holding off, was there was so much burgeoning technological leaps taking place. They're like, we're not
I wonder what's going on here.
Invest a lot of money in this, because by the time it's fully fielded, and this has happened with these advanced systems, they get fully fielded and they're kind of overcome by events.
Wow.
Give an example, the B-2 bomber.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Were you surprised that President Trump stated that an experiential version of the jet has apparently secretly been flying for nearly 5 years? Were you surprised that the president was that forthcoming?
No, I was surprised it was that forthcoming, but and then maybe they needed to say that. Look,
okay,
there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm going to let you in on a secret, okay? There's an area, let's use the number 51, okay? Look, there's a large part of Nevada which is federally owned, it's military property, and things fly over it, okay? That's why that area is out there, it's been there forever, is because we fly stuff out there in places where there's nobody living. And so I'm not surprised. There's all sorts of stuff that's flying out there. And if the president says it was flying out there, I have no doubt it was. And by the way, there's also this thing called the Pacific Ocean. And so who knows where it was flying, right?
All right. Hal Kemper, we're going to leave it at that. I can't thank you enough. So we cover all these topics each and every day. Have a good weekend, Hal. Talk soon.
Okay, you too, Andrew.
You can never see anything enter a black hole. Imagine you trap your nemesis in a rocket ship and blast him off towards a black hole. He looks back at you, shaking his fist at a constant rate. As he zooms in, gravity gets stronger, so you'd expect him to speed up. But that is not what you see. Instead, the rocket ship appears to be slowing down. Not only that, he also appears to be shaking his fist slower and slower. That's because, from your perspective, his time is slowing down. At
the very instant when he should cross the event horizon, the point beyond which not even light can escape, he and his rocket ship do not disappear. Instead, they seem to stop, frozen in time. The light from the spaceship gets dimmer and redder until it completely
Where it's structured differently.
This is how any object...
WebGL is not available in your browser.
Light is still coming from the point where he crossed, it's just too redshifted to see. But if you could see that light, then in theory you would see everything that has ever fallen into the black hole, frozen on its horizon, including the star that formed it. But in practice, photons are emitted at discrete intervals. There will be a last photon emitted outside the horizon, and therefore these images will fade after some time.
Enable WebGL.
This is just one of the strange results that comes out of the general theory of relativity, our current best theory of gravity. The first solution of Einstein's equations predicted not only black holes, but also their opposite, white holes. It also implied the existence of parallel
WebGL.org.
and even possibly a way to travel between them. This is a video about the real science of black holes, white holes, and wormholes. The general theory of relativity arose in part due to a fundamental flaw in Newtonian gravity. In the 1600s, Isaac Newton contemplated how an apple falls to the ground, how the moon orbits the Earth and Earth orbits the sun, and he concluded that every object with mass must attract every other. But Newton was troubled by his own theory. How could masses separated by such vast distances apply a force on each other? He wrote that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has a competent faculty of thinking could ever fall into it.
Check
One man
for
who definitely has a
WebGL.
competent faculty of thinking was Albert Einstein. And over 200 years
You can
later,
check if
he figured out how gravity
by visiting if you see a spinning cube.
bodies do not exert forces on each other directly. Instead, a mass like the sun curves the space-time in its immediate vicinity. This then curves the space-time around it, and so on all the way to the Earth. So the Earth orbits the sun because the space-time Earth is passing through is curved. Masses are affected by the local curvature of space-time, so no action at a distance is required. Mathematically, this is described by Einstein's field equations. Can you write down the Einstein field equation?
This was the result of Einstein's decade of hard work after special relativity. And essentially what we've got in the field equations, on one side it says, tell me about the distribution
I
of
don't
matter
need to
energy.
know that.
The other side tells you what the resultant curvature of space-time is from that distribution of matter and energy. And it's a single line. It looks like, oh, this is a simple equation, right? But it's not really one equation. It's a family of equations. And to make life more difficult, they are coupled equations, so they depend upon each other. And they are differential equations, so it means that there are integrals that have to be done, blah, blah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to do to solve field equations.
To see what a solution to these equations would look like, we need a tool to understand space-time. So imagine you're floating around in empty space. A flash of light goes off above your head and spreads out in all directions. Now, your entire future, anything that can and will ever happen to you, will occur within this bubble.
Oh my god, it's fucking working.
The only way to get out of it would be to travel faster than light. In 2 dimensions, this bubble is just a growing circle. If we allow time to run up the screen and take snapshots at regular intervals, then this light bubble traces out a cone, your future light cone. By convention, the axes are scaled so that light rays always travel at 45 degrees. This cone
toggle
reveals
video,
the only
really?
region of space-time that you can ever hope to explore and influence. Now imagine that instead of a flash of light above your head, those photons were actually traveling in from all corners of the universe, and they met at that instant and then continued traveling on in their separate directions. Well, in that case, then into the past, these photons also reveal a light cone, your past light cone. Only events that happened inside this cone could have affected you up to the present moment. We can simplify this diagram even further by plotting just one spatial and one time dimension. This is the space-time diagram of empty space. If you want to measure how far apart 2 events are in space-time, you use something called the space-time interval. The interval squared is equal to minus dt squared plus dx squared. Since space-time is flat, the geometry is the same everywhere, and so this formula holds throughout the entire diagram, which makes it really easy to measure the separation between any two events. But around a mass, space-time is curved, and therefore you need to modify the equation to take into account the geometry.
This is what solutions to Einstein's equations are like. They tell you how space-time curves and how to measure the separation between two events in that curved geometry.
Einstein published his equations in 1915 during the First World War, but he couldn't find an exact solution. Luckily, a copy of his paper made its way to the Eastern Front, where Germany was fighting Russia. Stationed there was one of the best astrophysicists of the time, Karl Schwarzschild. Despite being 41 years old, he had volunteered to calculate artillery trajectories for the German army.
And of course it's all boinked again. Can't. Okay, it is loading. Loading the video now, and I see in console the hand and pose detection is working, but I don't see the overlays. I know. Oh, and it's not mirrored again. Shit snacks. Okay. Wow. That is pretty sweet. Alright. Well, we're getting somewhere now. Okay. This is so beautiful. Okay. Accept. Accept. And why did that happen? Yo, okay, so we're good. I'm going to screenshot you. Okay, I'm going to do open screen. Shit. And awesome. It works. Okay, toggle arms. Oop. Hands, torso, face, legs, face, legs. Well, oh yeah, the camera. They are wacky. That's fine. The main part stuff is all fixed now. Thank you. Let's fix one thing at a time. But first, don't do anything yet. I'll just say, don't do anything yet. I am going to go I'm gonna go commit and get so let's see. Source control. See, and that's our original Grok. I am now switching this shit to. Oh, how did you do this again? Nope. Commit on where? Where do I set? You know what? Frick. I'm just gonna go into Grok and yeah, I'm just pretty sure that's where I am right now. What is it? So I'm on Grok. How do I, you know what? Using cursor now. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Oh, maybe. First of all, don't have two open. Okay. Any idea why when it first loads there is a delay? The initial video is upside down and pauses like that for a second or two before flipping right side up and showing all the overlays. That's right, I'm gonna ask. Let's go to agent. I'm just gonna take that and redo it. Send. There we go. The video element has a transform that flips both X and Y. Let me know. Alright, let's see. Yep, that works. Yep, that did it. Can we put a small settlement centered vertically and horizontally in the black area while the video loads? That just says Loading webcam. Dot. Maybe make it pulse. Also, can we disable all of... Oh. Sweet. I like it. To make it look more active, can you make the loading webcam text pulse a bit? Pulse slowly, pulse darker and lighter, so the user knows it is not frozen for that brief period. Plus, first time users are going to be bothered to get permission. So anyway, okay, so that sucks. It just took away my hands. Okay, that looks good, but now the overlays are missing again. Oh, fuck. What? We weren't starting the frame processing after the video started playing. Okay, sweet. Great. Okay, what's funny is the pause while the final video with overlay okay, the overlay is back. Thanks. Here is what I am seeing. One. Black screen with loading webcam. Initial no finally it loads fully, goes away. The video mirrors back to the incorrect way. You can even tell by the lettering on my shirt. In number 2, it looks like I am looking in a mirror. Letters are mirrored, which is how I want it to appear. See what you got? Oh man. We have 2 different places handling the video display. Okay, so now it's just got to fix the Yeah, that is wonky. See? Oh! Hey, we're back. Alright, cool. Should remain mirrored. Yeah, that's right. You're right. You got it. You got it. Good job. And what do we got? Let's clear it. That's fine. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, can we make the now can we make the video canvas maintain whatever aspect ratio the webcam is instead of stretching and squishing? We still want the video stream to be, I will say, we want, yeah, we always want the webcam aspect ratio to match whatever the webcam is giving you. When not in full screen, let's make the canvas 70% of the window width. Let me modify the code to maintain the web. That is not at all. Oh, just make sure it resets canvas whenever the video dimensions become available. Come on. Oh, is it? Why is it loading 3 of them? Alright, that's fucking... okay. The canvas seems to be stretching to fill the window. Seems to be stretching width and height to fill the window. It should resize on window, resize like it is, but when not in full screen, the video should remain 70% width of the window width. Here is how it looks right now. Yeah, but what about the 70% width part? That'd be grand. Uh-oh. That's not good. Yeah, now we're not getting the fucking... Ah, shit. Why does it do that? Strange, now it doesn't show the video again. It is stuck on loading webcam. Nope. Yay, got it. You got it. I love you so much right now. Okay, so you should now. Yep, that's awesome. Okay. I'm gonna now ask it to do the impossible. Awesome. Can you make the loading text fade away or go text disappear once the video is properly loaded? Also, please vertically center the video Also, please vertically center the video in the window. Also, actually, fine. This AI is gonna run out on me too soon. Now let me update the video loading logic to ensure the loading message disappears. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Except those buttons are so hideous. Oh, and that works now. Thank you. Okay. Is that arms? Okay, the arms are screwy. Okay. So face is good. Hands are good. And toggle torso. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the legs. I just want to see what the torso is. Okay, the torso is perfect. Okay, so just fucking headbanging. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Now let's fix some other things. When I am in full screen mode, the button should highlight that it is in mode. Also, the face and hands overlays are face, torso, and hands overlays are perfect, but we need to adjust the arms and legs. Arms should make an overlay from wrist to elbow, from wrist to should including everything from the wrist to shoulder on both sides. Legs should include legs overlay should include everything from the waist here is how it currently looks. Legs and torso. Oh. Also, full screen mode should stretch the canvas to fill the screen, keeping aspect ratio is more important though. My monitors are 16 by 9, so no problem for me. But if I happen to have a webcam that was 4:3, I would want you to fill the screen as best as you could, but that case would have borders on the side, which is fine. Okay, so I need to do a time thing. What? I don't think it's gonna work. Alright, let's see what happens. Yeah, that's cool and all, but yeah. That's what I wanted. Let's see if the legs work. I think it's because it's dark, actually. Is what I think. Alright. Why is it getting so jumpy? I kind of tree from here. Cause, yeah, okay. There we go. Why is the feet so? They were. Alright, I mean, that's fine. Yeah, things are a little jittery. Well, that's because that was occlusion. Love it. Okay, accept. What else? Okay. Let's default all of the overlays to off except for hands. Okay, so all right. Oh, or was that? Nah, whatever. Okay, where to go now? We are, okay, we'll just all, yeah, I'm doing this. Please and full screen working. Oops. Yeah, I know what. Fuck, why didn't I do it? Whatever. That's fun. Okay, so do I want to mess with the particles or do I want to start doing the So my next idea was yeah, sorry, oof. Yeah, the snow sucks. The snow sucks, I know. Is I want to detect the middle finger because you said let's keep it clean, but the reason I want to detect the middle finger is so that I can automatically, whoops, blur it out. It would be a fun exercise and keep it clean. Can you add middle finger detection code, or is it still in here somewhere? When we last started implementing it, we used a PNG file, but I have a different idea. Don't code. You know what? I'm just gonna do ask. But I have a different idea. I would like to run by you. This is where it's going to be interesting, because it did it. Looking through our conversation, I don't see any previous. However, I can help you implement it. As model provides 21 landmarks for each hand. Middle finger tip, middle finger, the dip, the pip, and the MCP. So that's the tip, the dip joint, the pip joint, and the MCP. Learning today. I'm gonna copy that out. The dip, the pip, and the whatever. Fuck. That's just kind of funny. To detect middle finger gesture, we would need to check if the middle finger is extended while the others are curled. Calculate the angle between the joints to confirm the gesture. Apply the blur effect when detected. Well, okay. For one, some people will have an outstretched thumb as well. So with or without an out we'll have an extended thumb as well. So with or without an extended thumb will both qualify as a bird. Bird is middle finger. I'm sure you know. LOL. Shouldn't matter for detecting it. Let me outline how we can detect it. The bird gesture, we need middle finger fully extended, relatively straight line. Index finger curled, ring finger curled, pinky curled. Thumb can be either way. Measuring the angles between the joints. For handling when detected. Sure. Before you do, I also want to clarify that we are going to try our best to detect the bird no matter what orientation it is in. rotationally about any axis. So for example, I could be giving the webcam the bird, or turn around and give the bird to the wall behind me. Both should detect. I guess that would be rotating about the z-axis. Be so back of hand facing you or away from you. Both sides should detect. Or if I am facing sideways in portrait, is that right? In portrait, and giving the bird off to the left or right of the screen, that should detect also. Or if I oddly decide to rotate my arm so I am giving an upside down bird, that should detect as well. It should detect on both hands simultaneously and track each hand, since we will be handling them both in real time and they may both be in different states. Sure, let's add the detection code and we will separate out what I am plan to do after we have the detection down solid. All right. Orientation depends, we need to make the detection robust by hand. For each hand detected, first we calculate the vectors between the joints. Instead of using absolute position, we'll use relative angles between these vectors. For each finger, calculate the angle between the base, the ratio of the finger. For the middle finger specifically, calculate the angle between those segments. When extended, should form a nearly straight line. The other fingers, except the thumb, go ahead and code it up. This is where last time I thought it was like, what do you mean, code what up? That's the robust. Oh. Ooh, that's definitely. Okay. Main detection function. Currently it just logs to console when detected. Once you verify it's working well. Okay. Yeah, accept, but I don't think it's working. Let's see. I don't know why it's doing that. Why does it load too? Oh. Can't really tell by the logs. Do you see what you are looking for? Yeah, fuck, I don't. The angles we're getting are very small when they should be much larger. This suggests our vector calculations might not be working as expected. I think this is what I didn't know before. Okay. Is bird gesture. Oh, okay, we got a bunch of falses and trues. Okay. Awesome, I am seeing bird detected in the logs, but there are so many. For now, can you just make a tiny bath here? That's fine, just clarifying. Just make a tiny indicator. That's pretty cool. Can you just make a tiny indicator attached to each hand? Just a little that is red when no bird and turns green when bird is detected. Is that up? Of course, all I want to sing is bird, bird, bird. Bird is the word. Okay, whatever. Yes, I just said it was. Yes, I just said it was. Yes, I just said that's fine. Was clarifying. There we go. Okay. Oh. Hey, that's pretty good. That's the only shitty one. Okay, so okay, well, give out small indicators. Okay, for now, move those dots so they are slightly above the hand, so they aren't interfering with the hand overlays. Also, the detection works great, except if we can improve on the side profile detection. Not sure if you have enough data to properly detect that or not. I don't want to mess up the detection if it is going to make things complicated, because it works pretty darn good right now. Maybe remember how it is now, but here is what I mean. Snipping tool. Okay. So I want a 3-second delay. See, like, that's actually pretty good. You know what? Okay. So, the outer one, the inner one. Oh, fuck off. 3 seconds. In the 2 images, it seems like you find it easier to recognize the side bird when my thumb is facing the webcam. See what you think of those 2 photos, and you should see what I mean. First image left hand showing green dots as the thumb facing. Oh, sweet. Oh. Oh, the dots are on the... Current approach seems to work well in Morse, but we could potentially improve side. Please make the indicator 50 px above the highest The current approach seems to work well, but we could potentially improve side profile detection by considering Oh, that looks pretty slick. Actually, that is like really nice. Whoa, I like that. That is pretty slick. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I like all of that. Review, accept. You know what? It's so fucking It's so cool. It's like they stick to you or something. Yeah, whatever. All right. You know what? You got to give it a chance. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I like it. And let's leave the detection alone for now. It is pretty darn good. I'll set you to ask, is there anything you can think of before I go on to the next step? The current implementation seems to have struck a balance reliable enough while not being overly complex. Now the indicator is positioned. Yeah, I know. That's just test. Exploring other features or improvements, just let me know. Webcam initialization, hand tracking, visualization, bird gesture detection, working reliably in most hand orientation. Oh, you never tried upside down. Ah, it works. Okay, inside. Oh, sideways doesn't work. Fuck. Shoot. Consider adding some form of deep bouncing. Oh, you read my mind. I already did this. This is so awesome because it either remembers that we did this. Okay. Okay, you read my mind. On the first two. And yes, let's add number 3 as well. There are times where the detection is just wonky and it flips between detected and not almost every frame, and certainly needs to be taken care of. I've never heard the term debouncing, but yes, explain that one to me. Last time I was down this path, I tried to fix it by what you suggested in 2. but it had its cons. Let me know what you think about debouncing versus the small delay. We can use both, but the delay rather takes away from the instantaneousness of how I want the effect to work. I love that it pops up pretty much within a single frame. I did try adding, I did try to fix this by always instantly adding during detecting a bird and only delay on removal. But again, takes away from the instantness of it. Let's hear about debouncing. Let me explain debouncing. It's a really useful technique. It might be perfect. It's different from a simple delay. Instead of adding a fixed delay before changing states, debouncing works by waiting for the signal to settle down before making a change. Think of it like bouncing a ball. Boing, boing. That's not, anyway. You'll wait until it stops bouncing before making a decision. Okay. When the gesture state changes, detected to not detected, or vice versa, start a timer. If another change happens within that, reset the timer. Only when the timer successfully completes, no change for, do we do the action? The key difference from a delay is, with a delay, you have to wait before the changing state, always. With debouncing, you only wait if the signal is unstable. The beauty of this approach is instant changes will happen instantly if they're confident. I like this. Only flickering, unstable detections get smoothed out. You can adjust the debounce time and find the sweet spot. You could use it like this, so that you maintain the snappy feel when it's well, only smooth. Okay. Agent, I love the debounce. I love the debounce. Or the, this is great. I love the debounce. Go ahead and implement it. Oh, great. Well, that just sucks. Oh, fuck. Error parsing. Oh. What is happening there? This is bizarre. This is bizarre when a hand appears, the video screen goes black and the video comes back when I hide my hands. Also, now the markers are on the opposite hand, like in the image. I can see the two distinct issues. The video disappearing when hands are detected. This is happening because we're clearing the canvas before drawing the hand landmarks, but not properly redrawing. The hand, see, this is where I get all freaked out. Okay. Aw, see, now it doesn't detect at all. But is it detecting? Where does it say bird? Is bird gesture false? Clear. Up, up, up. Is bird gesture, where does it say that? Okay, that fixed the video and the are on the correct hand now, but it looks like bird detection is working, but the indicator circles are not changing color to green when detected. They both stay red. Nope, stop it. Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Consider that we're using the bounce correctly, but there might be an issue with how we're handling the state. Let me check the relevant parts. Is bird gesture. Oh. I like it. Okay, so that's super. Okay. Awesome. They are back to working again. I can, however, get it into a state using the side bird that we looked at earlier, where the indicator flickers green, red, almost every frame. Want to try and adjust the deep bounce. Now that it works, now that we know it's working, it does sound like it. 100 millisecond bounce time for the side profile case where the detection might be less stable. We might want to add a bit of hysteresis. Okay, several improvements. Increase the debounce time from 100 to 200 millisecond to give it more time to settle. Added a consecutive count system. Requires 3 consecutive readings of the same state before changing. This helps. Okay, so that is so much smoother. Oh my god. Oh, it's because the thumb was out of the way. Your thumb's not detected at all. Fuck. Yeah, that's there's nothing you can do there. Whatever, that's when, okay. Beautiful. Let's keep that. Keep it like this. I'm gonna put it into ask. Let's keep it like this. Okay, I'm gonna come back here. Yes, but I have to run out for a bit. When I return, I want to space account for no webcam, no permissions, etc. I have found one mutation that we forgot about when I attempted to it another time before. It was seemingly impossible. Second new. Second. New. First image is just me showing it working as normal. The other two images show that when I give a sideways bird, it 100% fails detecting it. Have a look while I go. I will be back to follow up. You rock. You are awesome. All right. All right, that is one long frickin' session. Ta-ta.